What if I told you that motivation is overrated? Yes, you heard that right. We've all been there. You watch an inspiring video, read a motivational quote, and suddenly, you're fired up. You're ready to take on the world, start that new project, or finally stick to your goals. But then, a few days later, that fire starts to fade. You find yourself back where you started, wondering, what happened to all that motivation? Here's the hard truth. Motivation alone isn't enough. In this video, I'm going to reveal why relying solely on motivation is a recipe for failure and what you really need to succeed in the long run. We live in a world that celebrates motivation. We see it everywhere, on social media and self-help books from motivational speakers. It's the fuel that drives us to start new ventures, pursue our dreams, and push through tough times. But here's the problem. Motivation is like a spark. It can ignite the fire, but it can't keep it burning. Think about it. How many times have you been motivated to start something new, only to lose steam a few days or weeks later? Maybe you started a new workout routine, committed to a new diet, or decided to launch that side business you've always dreamed about. At first, you were unstoppable. But then, life got in the way. The excitement wore off. Suddenly, getting up early to work out felt like a chore, sticking to that diet became impossible, and working on your business seemed overwhelming. The problem isn't that you weren't motivated enough. The problem is that motivation alone is fleeting. It's unreliable. And when it fades, what's left to keep you going? In this video, we're going to dive deep into why motivation isn't enough to achieve lasting success and, more importantly, what you really need to keep moving forward even when that initial spark is gone. The limitations of motivation. So, what exactly is motivation? Motivation is that feeling of excitement and energy that drives you to take action. It's that burst of inspiration that makes you feel like you can conquer anything. And while it's great to feel motivated, the reality is that motivation is not a constant. It fluctuates. It comes and goes, often when you need it the most. Let's break this down. Motivation is an emotional driver. It's what gets you to start something new. But it's heavily influenced by your mood, energy levels, and external circumstances. One day you might wake up feeling like you can take on the world, and the next day, you struggle to even get out of bed. This inconsistency makes motivation an unreliable tool for long-term success. For example, let's say you decide to start a new workout routine. On day one, you're pumped. You've got your gym clothes ready, your playlist is on point, and you crush your workout. But what happens on day 5 when you didn't sleep well? You had a stressful day at work, and all you want to do is relax. Suddenly, that motivation is nowhere to be found, and without it, it becomes much harder to stick to your routine. This is where the limitations of motivation become clear. It's great for getting you started, but it's not enough to keep you going. Motivation is inherently unreliable because it's subject to change based on factors outside your control. And when you rely solely on motivation, you're setting yourself up for a cycle of starting and stopping, which can be incredibly frustrating and discouraging. Why relying on motivation leads to failure? Now that we've established that motivation is fleeting, let's talk about why relying on it can lead to failure. One of the biggest reasons is that our brains are wired to seek out immediate rewards. This is a survival mechanism that helped our ancestors, but in today's world, it can work against us. When you're motivated, your brain is focused on the long-term reward, losing weight, building a successful business, or achieving your goals. But as soon as that motivation fades, your brain starts to crave short-term gratification instead. Think about the last time you set a goal. Maybe you wanted to eat healthier, so you motivated yourself to cut out junk food. But then a week later you're stressed out, tired, and suddenly that piece of cake in the fridge looks a lot more appealing than the long-term goal of getting healthy. Your brain is wired to seek out that immediate reward because it feels good in the moment, even if it goes against your long-term goals. Another reason why relying on motivation leads to failure is what's known as motivation burnout. This happens when you're constantly trying to stay motivated, but you end up exhausting yourself in the process. At first, You're full of energy and excitement, but over time, the effort of staying motivated wears you down. Eventually, you burn out, and all that initial excitement is replaced by fatigue and discouragement. This is the motivation trap. You start something new, relying on motivation to keep you going. But when that motivation fades, you lose steam, and you either give up or force yourself to keep going until you burn out. Then, you feel guilty, frustrated, and you start to question whether you're even capable of achieving your goals. It's a vicious cycle that can be hard to break. But here's the thing. Success doesn't come from motivation alone. It comes from building a solid foundation that supports your goals, even when that initial motivation is gone. And that foundation is made up of discipline, habits, systems, and a strong sense of purpose. The key elements you really need to succeed. So, if motivation isn't enough, what do you really need to succeed? The first key element is discipline. Discipline is what keeps you going when motivation fades. It's the ability to stick to your goals and routines, even when you don't feel like it. Unlike motivation, discipline is not an emotional driver. It's a skill that you can develop over time. Discipline is about creating structure in your life. It's about setting up routines and habits that make it easier to stay on track. For example, if you want to get in shape, discipline is what gets you to the gym on those days when you'd rather stay in bed. It's what helps you resist the temptation to eat junk food when you're stressed. Discipline is the foundation that keeps you moving forward, even when motivation is nowhere to be found. The next key element is habits. Habits are powerful because they automate success. Once you've developed a habit, it requires very little mental effort to maintain. This is why habits are often more reliable than motivation. Instead of relying on willpower to make the right choices every day, you can create habits that make those choices automatic. For example, if you want to be more productive, you could develop the habit of starting your day with a focused work session. By doing this consistently, it becomes a routine that you don't have to think about. It just happens naturally. Over time, these small habits add up to significant progress, and they help you stay on track even when your motivation is low. Another crucial element is having a clear and compelling purpose. Purpose is what drives long-term commitment and resilience. When your goals are connected to something you deeply care about, it's much easier to stay disciplined. Instead of relying on external rewards or motivation, you're driven by the fulfillment that comes from working towards something meaningful. For example, if your goal is to start a business, your purpose might be to create a better life for your family or to make a positive impact in your community. When you're connected to this deeper purpose, it gives you the strength to keep going, even when the journey gets tough. Finally, you need systems and routines that support your goals. Systems are the processes and structures you put in place to make success more attainable. For example, if your goal is to get in shape, your system might include meal prepping on Sundays, scheduling your workouts in advance, and tracking your progress each week. Systems create consistency, and they make it easier to stay disciplined because you're not relying on motivation, you're following a plan. In summary, the key elements you need to succeed are discipline, habits, purpose, and systems. These elements work together to create a solid foundation that supports your goals, even when motivation fades. Practical strategies to build what you really need. Now that we've covered the key elements of success, let's talk about some practical strategies you can use to build discipline, habits, purpose, and systems. One powerful strategy is called temptation bundling. This involves pairing something you want to do with something you need to do. For example, if you love watching your favorite TV show but struggle to get to the gym, you could make a deal with yourself. You can only watch the show while you're on the treadmill. This way, you're motivated to exercise because it's the only way you'll get to enjoy your guilty pleasure. Another effective strategy is breaking down your goals into smaller, manageable tasks. Large goals can be overwhelming, which makes it easy to procrastinate. But when you break them down into smaller steps, they become much more achievable. For example, instead of telling yourself you need to write a book, focus on writing just 1 page a day. Over time, those small steps will add up to significant progress. Accountability is another powerful tool for enhancing self-discipline. When you have someone else holding you accountable, whether it's a friend, a coach, or even an app, you're more likely to stick to your commitments. This is because accountability creates a sense of external pressure and social support, which can be incredibly motivating. Automating discipline through routines and habits is also a highly effective strategy. When you establish a routine, you reduce the need to make decisions, which conserves your mental energy and willpower. For example, if you always go for a run at the same time every morning, it becomes a part of your daily routine that you don't have to think about. It just happens automatically. Finally, it's important to regularly reflect on your progress and make adjustments as needed. Success is not a one-size-fits-all approach, and what works for one person may not work for another. By reflecting on your successes and challenges, you can identify what's working, what's not, and make the necessary changes to stay on track. Real-life examples of success beyond motivation. To illustrate these concepts, let's look at some real-life examples of people who have achieved success by going beyond motivation. Consider the story of James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits. Clear struggled with staying motivated in his early years, but he eventually realized that the key to success wasn't sheer willpower, it was building effective habits. By focusing on small, incremental changes and creating an environment that supported his goals, Clear was able to achieve remarkable success in his personal and professional life. Another example is Jocko Willink, a former Navy SEAL and author of Discipline Equals Freedom. Willink emphasizes the importance of creating a disciplined environment, establishing strong routines, and aligning your actions with your values. His approach to discipline is not about brute force. It's about creating a lifestyle that makes discipline a natural part of your day. These examples show that success doesn't have to be a constant struggle. By combining discipline with habits, purpose, and systems, you can create a sustainable approach to achieving your goals. So, what have we learned? Motivation, as it's traditionally understood, is not enough on its own. It's an important piece of the puzzle, but it needs to be supported by the right environment, strong habits, intrinsic motivation, and self-compassion. When you approach success in this holistic way, it becomes much easier and more sustainable. Remember, you don't have to rely on sheer willpower alone. Take control of your environment, build powerful habits, and connect your goals to something meaningful. When you do this, motivation will start to feel like second nature. It won't be something you have to force, but something that naturally aligns with the life you want to live. Now, I encourage you to reflect on your own reliance on motivation. What's one area where you've been relying on willpower alone? And how can you apply the strategies we've discussed today to make it easier? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. And if you found this video helpful, make sure to subscribe for more insights on personal growth and success. Together, we can create the life we truly want, without the constant struggle.